Okay. You're all set. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first Senate meeting of the 2022-23 term. I'm going to officially call us to order. We're now official. Okay. And the first thing for us to do is the minutes for our last Senate meeting, which was held last spring, April 25th, 2022, they have been distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Once, twice, okay. All right, hearing none, the minutes are approved as distributed. We're done with that. Okay. I want to welcome you back to campus for 2022-23 academic year. It's great to be back in person. It's also my pleasure to begin my term as Senate President and Chair of the University Academic Council. My name is Penny Ann Dolan. I am a professor of practice in the Graphic Information Technology program on the Polytechnic campus in the Ira Fulton Schools of Engineering. And I look forward.
You have to do quorum first.
I don't have, and I'm new to this too, if you haven't figured out, okay? So remember what I said, okay? So go ahead. So what do you want me to do here?
I can.
Okay, please look on your clicker and there is a quorum question that you need to answer. Okay,
Okay, the poll is open. The question reads, select the campus which you represent. A, downtown campus. B, Polytechnic. C, Tempe. D, West Campus. Few more seconds, cast your vote.
digital.
Okay, we're stopping the poll. Okay, we're going to launch the next question. The next question reads, this is a little bit more wordy. So at ASU, senators are selected representatives of the Academic Assembly. Who are the members of the Academic Assembly? The options are A, any full-time employee at ASU. B, all faculty in tenure or their eligible positions, all APs with full-time, multi-year, probationary or continuing appointments, all faculty with fixed appointments and members of the Emeritus College. C, full-time faculty and academic professionals with multi-year contracts or continuing appointments who are nominated by their deans. Or D, only senators. Cast your vote. Okay, we are closing the poll. And the answer is C. No, I'm sorry, it's B, it's B. No, you have it, you have it. So my the answer, we have quorum, Penny.
Okay, so you remember what I said already, right? Okay. So I'm still Penny Ann Dolan from the Polytechnic campus. We already approved the action on the minutes, so that's good. But I do look forward to my time as your president of the Senate, and I promise to rehearse more. I want to remind everyone to please follow our Senate dashboard blog. This month, we are spotlighting Senator Arabides Usman, and School of Social Transformation in African and African American Studies. Professor Usman's research contributes to relevant knowledge and about African experience and changes through time in regional and global contexts. Please take a moment to read the dashboard, the Senate blog, and who knows, you may be next month. We've all heard, I'm sure, about the debt relief legislation signed by President Biden. Many critics were alarmed might be giving unwarranted tax breaks to affluent borrowers. But the reality is that this debt relief is targeted at lower income college graduates and dropouts, especially those who grew up in low income families. The plan will forgive up to $10,000 in debt for those earning less than $125,000 and help Pell Grant borrowers even more. This is not a giveaway for the rich. It also doesn't cancel all the debt that many lower income students have, but it is a start. We should be very proud of our efforts to enroll low income and first generation students at ASU. From 2002 to 2021, our rates of enrollment of these groups of students has quadrupled. But what really caught my attention is, and I quote from a New York Times article that just came out recently, quote, a study by Judith Scott Clayton of Columbia University that found that the loan default rate for borrowers without any degree was 40%. For those with a bachelor's degree, it was less than 8%. So many of our debt burdened students not only have debt, but no degree. I think it's imperative for all of us to pay attention to how many of our students complete their degrees. It's not enough just to have high enrollment, although that's awesome. We also need high completion rates. We're approaching an 85% graduation rate, but I challenge all of us to really pay attention to our students. If you see someone struggling or consistently absent, please reach out to them or alert our excellent team at Educational Outreach and Student Services, EOS. We have 24/7 open calls, we have open chats and telehealth individual sessions available to all of our students. Okay, and now it is my pleasure to introduce President Michael Crow, who is going to address our first Senate meeting of the year.
Thank you, Professor Dolan. It really, address would be an overstatement. I'm here and I will speak. So how about speak? So first, everyone, when I say welcome back, I know that that's a misnomer. Everyone's plugged in, all the time, thanks to this incessant little friend we have called email and text messages, and they're constantly flowing, constantly moving back and forth, and you're never quite sure how to manage. I have a strange way of managing all things, and that if I can't transact the answer in the time it takes me to read it and consider it, then I don't deal with it on my screen. I deal with it another way. I have to. So then I organize elaborate every single day mechanisms for what I have to decide that day, what I have to decide within the week, what I have to decide within 2 weeks. And so it's just a different kind of system. So nonetheless, here we are gathered together, and it's nice to see so many of you in person. We are open fully for university business. We have about 80,000 students with us in full immersion on-campus technology enhanced learning from about 150 countries, all 50 states, every corner of Arizona, every family background that you can imagine, with ongoing and continuing evolution of our diversity, of our students, our socioeconomic diversity, our ethnic diversity, all forms of diversity, however you choose to think that through. We're very excited about that. And this year we will have about 93,000 is our estimate additional online degree seeking students over the academic year, for about 170,000 degree seeking students in total during the academic year. That means then that our efforts are perceived as interesting enough that 170,000 families have found a way to connect to us. And just think about that for a second. We had about 80,000 applications, give or take, for our first year class. Provost Gonzalez and I, who's here, were with the roughly 16,000 gold shirted first time, full-time students in Sun Devil Stadium a few. And what I can tell you, and I mentioned this to some of you earlier, what I can tell you is that I don't think I've experienced that much human, emotional, I guess I would call psychological, telepathic, or physical energy in one place for a long time. It was more than a football game, more than an event. I mean, these were kids, 17, 18 years old for the most part, an occasional 12-year-old. For the most part, 17 and 18 years old who got there. They're sitting in the stadium. They're there. They're energized. They're excited. They're ready to go. Their lives are getting started. They've been in some form of COVID something for 2 years plus. If you imagine your last 2 years of high school in that situation, I mean, it's beyond belief. That has to have had emotional impacts on everyone. And then the families that have suffered additional emotional impacts, if not trauma, in the case of many, many families. And so I ask all of us on the faculty to be extraordinarily focused this semester as the young people that are here for the first time as first year students, and the young people that are here for the first time as graduate students, and the students that are here for the first time as transfer students that are coming in from community colleges that hadn't been getting together physically either. There's a lot of new things. Like, what's it like to be in a room with other people? What's it like to be challenged, or, the complexity of all of the emotionality of face-to-face communication? It's a lot different than Zoom. Zoom might be 40% or 50% of what it is when you're talking to someone face-to-face, maybe. Well, they haven't been experiencing that except within their own families, and they may be sick of that at this point. And so I just ask us to be extraordinarily focused and diligent, if not vigilant, relative to helping these young people. And I mean, all the way up to the graduate students who are now here with us. Let me also say, and I've said this at the earlier meeting of the Academic Senate when we recognized the president's professors. I'm glad so many of you are here. These families sent their children here not to talk to us on TV screens. They sent their children here to be with us, to be in the total immersive university managed as best we can in this endemic phase of this pandemic. So it has moved to endemic phase. It is on a path perhaps to an outbreak phase. These are stages of evolution of these kinds of things. And so all in all, I just hope that we can be as focused on these students as possible. I do know that even not surprisingly, but positively shockingly, there is no number. And if you go back and look at the tapes of these meetings, you'll see that I say this in nearly every time I appear before the Senate. This time, even extraordinarily so, 2022 was the most significant positive year that we've ever had across all dimensions of the institution. I know our early numbers not yet announced in terms of our research expenditures for 2022, they're unbelievable. Unbelievable, where they will project us even further into the ranks of elite serving research universities with an egalitarian student body. There aren't very many of those. Elite serving research universities with an egalitarian student body. Fundraising broke $300 million again in 2022. Enrollment, not enrollment, but applications where we don't even know where all of this is happening. I mean, applications off the charts. Off the charts. In fact, unbelievable applications from out-of-state students and international students. We're now 6,700 students on campus from India. 67, slightly more than 6,700 coming in from everywhere. And I like to say that when you hawk your house and send your child to the United States to live in an area from central India, you'd like there to be a faculty there when your child arrives. But on all indicators, we've got the highest level of performance that we have ever seen. We also have 3 of the most unbelievable nation building opportunities in the United States in the last 80 years. 3 pieces of legislation that have been signed into law, passed by Congress. You watch the news, you'd think that President Biden thought these things up and passed them all by himself. Last time I checked, the president signs the bills that Congress first, and things move on from that. And so the first one is the infrastructure bill. The infrastructure bill is hundreds of billions of dollars for old infrastructure. Think of bridges, roads, et cetera, but hundreds of billions of dollars for infrastructure for new things, including national research and technology development centers for hydrogen economy, national research and technology development centers for capturing carbon from the atmosphere and driving forward a carbon economy, national investments in an infrastructure that will electrify all of the transportation routes in the United States to a level that we've never seen, empowering, furthering the movement forward of new renewable energy-based vehicles. The second piece of legislation had two words in it in the phraseology of the bill: the CHIPS and Science Act. Chips, microchips. Why? Essential to the functioning of the United States from a national security perspective, from an economic competitiveness perspective, from a supply chain perspective. So national security from a military perspective, national security from a supply chain weakness perspective, and just flat out trying to get as much of this manufacturing relocated in the United States. Now, with that came, in fact, tomorrow, Gina Raimondo, the Secretary of Commerce, will be here at the Macro Technology Works on the ASU Research Park campus, and I'll be meeting with her along with others. She has tens of billions of dollars to set up a national manufacturing network for advanced microchips. In addition, the Defense Department has now the opportunity to establish national laboratories in microelectronics. Now, you might say, really? How does that help me? I try to say to people that microchips are a lot more than the tools that are needed for national defense. If only we had more advanced computational tools, would we have a better opportunity to detect cancer at the earliest possible stage. We don't have that computational power. We don't have that imaging power. We don't have machines capable of calculating at that level. We don't have machines capable of managing our interface with the atmosphere at the level that we would like to have it work at. We don't have machines capable of helping our learners at the level that we would like to have it. We don't have computational capabilities at those levels. More advanced microchips will do that. And the second part of this second bill, maybe you guys already know this, I can't tell by looking at the faces, but the CHIPS Science Act is that the science part includes two really important things. One was an additional $1 billion of investment in the National Science Foundation, which is funding for social sciences, behavioral sciences, math and physical sciences, engineering sciences, as well as a new whole series of activities related to advanced integrated technologies like learning technologies, which involve learning scientists, psychologists, engineers, other kinds of scientists all coming together with funding from the National Science Foundation, as well as an additional, give or take, $10 billion of authority to expand the budget of the National Science Foundation. Now, this bill, by the way, did get bipartisan support, significant bipartisan support in the middle of very difficult and complicated partisan politics that are going on right now. And so you should look at this as academics. You should look at this as faculty members, as a statement from a broad cross-section of the political leadership of the country that new technology underpin other technologies are very, very important to the country and our success. And let's put more money into science, including for universities. And so while you may become distracted by those that are out there that think that the universities are a joke and should all be eliminated, well, those are people that don't really know what they're talking about. They're a small minority of the population, and they don't understand the extent to which what we do can lay the foundation for the future economies and the future successes and the future enhancements in behavioral outcomes and the future developments. And so that's the second bill. The third bill, I don't know why it was this, was the Inflation Reduction Act. And so someone says, yeah, I'm guessing that it's related somehow to tactical politics. But having said that, there are elements of that bill that are hugely related to research, new systems, new technology developments, new ways of advancing the economy. So those three bills together offer to us in the university community and to ASU specifically across all fields, every single aspect of what we need to do what we're doing, which is more resources. And then Dr. Dolan already mentioned it was not a bill, but the executive order on debt. It's very complicated, very, very complicated. And the best way to look at this is that the intent of this executive order was to be fair to college students who had taken debt and who, because of their debt, were not able to move forward with their lives and were encumbered by their debt and therefore unable to advance into home purchasing, unable to advance into other activities important in the economy. But that people that had gone to college and had debt were not able to enter the economy. So it's really an economic policy decision as opposed to an educational policy decision. I ran our numbers and I'm still processing this and I'll get this out to you as soon as I can, but the total level of debt averaged across all of our students, all of our undergraduates, all of our undergraduate students on a per student basis is $11,000 when you graduate. And the total debt for those that have debt for our undergraduate mid-20s. Those are numbers that I find to be very positive, very encouraging, very responsible on our part in terms of finding ways to help students to get through college. It's a little bit more for graduate students because that includes law students and others, and you're in graduate school for a longer period of time and so forth and so on. But nonetheless, I feel very good about our numbers and I'll be getting our numbers out to you. We also have a low default rate. And also I support on behalf of ASU full transparency in the US government. All default rate. I also believe that money for college debt should come to universities to help students to actually spend it on college. Because it turns out that a lot of people are buying Ford Mustangs with their student loans, and I'm less for that than paying to stay in college. And so it turns out that the government of the United States is unbelievably generous with Pell Grants, unbelievably generous with low interest loans, and it secures those loans. And they leave it up to us in the spirit of self-determination of the United States of how you want to spend that. So yes, you did a student help you to get through college, but you spent it on something else and you dropped out. I've been trying to fix this for a long time. I'm continuing to try to fix it by whining to officials in the government about where we are relative to this overall model and how we should improve it since we've decided to be so generous. Let me also just say in closing that the state of Arizona has been unusually positive in their investments with us. We have State Senator Sean Bowie is back there in the back, who is in the Senate. You can wave, Sean. Who's been a strong supporter of the university, fought for funding for the university, fought for independence of the university. And we have received funding for our new economy initiative for 2 funding cycles from the state legislature. This is allowing us to make investments in new things like learning, engineering, and science, new centers, new science and technology centers, which are not just for scientists and technologists. It's for the broadest conceptualization possible about how to have an economy move forward, as well as, and this is clear, for the expansion of engineering. Faculty members are in the Senate here in Tempe. So engineering this semester has 30,500 students, including online students. I think it's about 21 and 9 or 22 and 8. Do you remember, Nancy? I don't remember the exact split of online and engineering. So just a little bit about tidbits of where we're going. We're working with Mayo Clinic on our new joint effort at Mayo Clinic to advance a thing called Discovery Oasis, which will expand on the one facility that we have there at Mayo Clinic North in North Phoenix. How many of you know where I'm talking about? North Phoenix, Mayo Clinic. 50-acre site that we're the partner in developing that into a new economy, health-oriented, technology-oriented place for new companies to locate. On the Polytechnic campus, we are designing as we speak the new Advanced Manufacturing and Network Engineering School of the Fulton Schools of Engineering that will go onto that campus. We're designing as we speak a new residence hall for the West Campus. I've asked our student affairs staff to concentrate on expanding and evolving more residence halls on all of our campuses to get about 10,000 more sleeping space, take us up to 25,000. Turns out that if students stay with us and live with us, they have a much higher probability of graduating, particularly the first and second year before they go off on their own. And so we're looking to be able to do that. I've also asked our staff to think through the development of affordable housing for staff, for postdocs, for others that as local real estate has shot up, how can we move forward affordable housing? Now, affordable housing may be located in different locations. We think along the light rail is a good place to put affordable housing. We think that if you can elaborate and successful public transportation network that works. And so we are looking at that. I'm urging them to move forward with that and to find affordable housing that our staff can participate in. Lots of universities and schools have that. We haven't had that in the past. They had it when I was at Columbia University. The university owned about 7,000 apartments in the Morningside Heights and Washington Heights district of Manhattan. And it was for postdocs and junior faculty members and senior faculty members. And otherwise there was no way to really afford to live there academic. So we're not quite to that point yet, but we're moving in that direction. And so we're working on that. Let me also say that we have a very broad and diverse student body, and our clinical support of our student body for all of their health needs will be focused and personal and what they need to be able to move forward with their lives in every possible way. So that's an important thing that we're doing, expanding including expanding our mental health capabilities and our mental health. There is an election underway at the state of Arizona for governor, attorney general, all the state offices, one Senate seat, all of the congressional seats, and the legislature. All I say to all of you is it's better to vote and get other people to vote than to complain. And so spend your energy on that. And so I just think that that's a really important thing to do. And we're urging our students to vote and get out there to vote and to participate and to be a part of all of that. So with that, I will stop and see if there are questions or next.
Tempe Senators, if you have a question, please come to the microphone.
If people, for
And
everyone's benefit,
introduce
could just say
yourself.
who they are. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Senator Jackson, I was just wondering, are there still reports about numbers of COVID cases amongst faculty and students being reported?
I read a daily report every day on COVID positives. And so right now for faculty and staff, we're around 40 positives within the entire institution, which is a very low number. With students, we're in the less than 200, in the hundreds, I think. So those are reported every day. And then we're still producing the weekly COVID report. We have not had anyone to our knowledge on staff, faculty, or students in the hospital from ASU for 18 months. And so we think that's a good number. We are continuing the testing. The testing is still available to you. Testing, by the way, every time you take one of those tests, I don't remember the exact cost, but I think it costs about $65 for us to process that test, which is, we eat that. And so we've budgeted more money for more testing for this year because we think testing is a really important regimen. We also have some early warning testing. We're using, sorry about this, but we're using solid waste, streams coming from the university to test the presence of viruses that we can detect. And then from that, we'll know if we have an outbreak. If there's an outbreak, then we'll go in and do other early warning system. We obviously don't know, what person or even even the building, but we know that, this side of campus or this neighborhood seems to have an outbreak. We're testing for 40 different viruses or something like that. I don't remember the exact number, but COVID. And so we're doing that. And then we're also still offering and urging, if you're over 50 and haven't had your fourth shot, is that the age? I mean, you need to get it. I've had so many shots, I can't even keep track of them all. I mean, like I've had 4 COVID shots, 2 shingles shots, pneumonia shot, a flu shot, all since COVID. It's just, I don't know. And I have no idea what all those things together do to someone. But so I'm the experiment, but so we're still offering that. And so we've got we're following as best as we can CDC guidelines, masking if you wish to mask for whatever reason. We still have whatever anybody needs. We still have masks. We still are doing hospital grade cleaning of all the buildings. We still have enhancing the air handling systems. We're still doing all of that. We also are doing DNA analysis of all the positives that are in our testing system. So we know what variant, we know the variants as they're changing, and we can generally tell where the person got the variant. What I mean by got it is that, did they get it? Were students giving it to faculty members? And we still have no evidence of that from any of the data that we have. So we're happy about that. And Nancy, am I leaving anything off on COVID? Yeah. So Provost Gonzalez was talking about, we have this website where, if you come down with COVID, or, you have an outbreak in your class or something like that, how you should manage that and what kind of help you should get. We're not seeing what we've seen in the past. Our science and technology advisor to the university, Neil Woodbury, who then also works with our medical advisors at the Mayo Clinic. We're pretty confident that we're at a moment of, I don't want to call it a lull because it can affect people in different ways and it's a very individual thing, but we're not concerned about social spread at the moment. That could change with the variants. We communicate on the executive committee of the university via email about COVID every day, 7 days a week. So we're aware of what's going on. So if all of a sudden, after all the kids got here, we saw 1,000 new cases, on campus. I think we have on campus 40 cases, something like that. Yeah, it's low. We were down to 0 for a while, but that was called summer. And then all of a sudden, 16,000 people showed up and 40 have COVID. We're like, okay, we can manage that.
I'm Dave Wells with the Faculty of Leadership and Interdisciplinary Integrative Studies in the College of Integrative Sciences and Arts, CISA. I also teach American government downtown, and we actually followed Sean when he was in the 2008 national delegates there. He had a little blog, and we kept up with him then.
Did you do okay?
Yeah, he's done pretty good since then. So a little overdressed for today, but okay. But I have a really serious concern. I've been increasingly concerned that the values of ASU are not in line with my values anymore. ASU does a great job marketing itself and its brand to somehow make it on par with like places like Stanford. But I'm increasingly feeling like ASU is moving more in the direction of a diploma mill than being like Stanford. I've had concerns for years about the financial model of ASU Online, whereby only $8 per credit hour goes to pay for instruction. In some cases, it can be as high as $100. Though in my college, CISA, any added funds are captured by the college. Because students are charged, unless they have a deal, more than $500 a credit, that has led me to conclude this financial model is about ripping off students to fund other aspects of the university, as well as marketing ASU Online. I find that fundamentally unethical. But within my unit of Leadership and Integrative Studies, we have found a way to make it work and keep most of our upper division and graduate classes to no more than 30 students. However, that changed. Been told by our dean that the expectation is that caps should be higher. So she has pressured and sometimes unilaterally forced caps up considerably. So compared to last fall, caps are now 50 or 75 and sometimes even higher. Unprecedented in my 25 years, she also fired or didn't renew 5 of our faculty of about 40, as this was implemented because she said we were overstaffed. The OGL 300 leadership theory class I originally designed about 10 years ago for 25 that was later raised to 30 students now has 3 sections with caps of 100 to 124. I built on building student skills so that they could assess a Harvard Business School case study and then later wrote 3 case studies of my own for student analysis. I looked at how the syllabus changed for one of the 125 cap sections, and it's a watered down course, quizzes on readings, discussion boards, and yellow dig. As one colleague has noted, this leads to grading for compliance instead of content. I already see this in other aspects of the university. My daughter Kim is in the online MSW program, and their course sizes are typically about 125 compared to about 25 for the on-campus version of the same degree. FAs gets modest feedback and rarely interacts with the professor. My general impression is that it's an inferior experience to the MSW on-campus experience my ex-wife, Rochelle Wells, took about 20 years ago with classmates like Allie Bones, who is now Katie Hobbs' chief of staff, and Rebecca Rios, who is now the minority leader in the state Senate. My daughter Kim is now married and not a dependent anymore, is going to be paying $50,000 for this degree, part of that from me. even though a paltry amount of that will actually pay for the people providing her instruction. I think that's unethical, but does appear to be the policy of ASU to classes, even if it comes at the expense of watering down expectations. So with that long introduction, my question is my dean accurate in saying she is following the university's expectations here? Thank you.
Well, I stopped counting at 11 accusations that you made. And so I don't have the opportunity in this forum to respond to each of the 11. And you use the word ethics many times. This university remains where its instructional activities are governed by the faculty in the units themselves. And so this university also remains in a point where our programs, as you suggest, I'm not going to respond to everything. I'm going to get to your question. There are parts of the university which generate revenue for other aspects of the university's existence. The single most significant aspect of that additional revenue is financial aid. So the largest single thing that we use our additional revenue for beyond our expenses is to pay for other students to be able to attend the institution. And that's this year almost $700 million. $700 million is necessary because we live in a state that doesn't have any state-based financial aid. So we've constructed a university structure and system which does have places that generate more money for this and less money for that, and more for this and more for that. And across the more than 26,000 individual courses that we're teaching, those numbers and those ratios are different for all of those courses and within all of those departments and all of those units, generally driven by the deans themselves. Now, it is not the case, and Nancy, you may want to comment on this, that we give any instructions to any dean about how to run their course designs, their credit loads, their student loads. We couldn't do that. Now, a school may decide that they'd like to generate more revenue for the school or have additional enrollment or things like that. But we don't set any goals for enrollment. We set goals for applications. We set goals for where we'd like to get, but we don't say to a unit, here's how many students you need to have, or we don't say anything about class structures or class designs. There's too many classes. There's too many ways to teach, too many different ways to put forth the instruction. I will look at each of the points that you make in the letter here, or the note here. What we do know about the 75,000 people that we've graduated from our online degree programs is that for the most part, they're doing extremely well with their degrees in whatever it is that they wanted to do. We have the first students admitted to medical school who weren't able to go to the university physically, but are able to go online. The folks that we have done a good job. Not everyone, people have different life desires, different life choices and so forth, but I'm very defending our online degree programs at this institution because of the degree programs that we have, like your daughter that's taking the Master's of Social Work degree, that's the same faculty. Now, if they've decided that the online degree course should have X numbers of students in it, they're deciding that. That faculty is deciding that. We're not deciding that. Nancy, you can come up and take a little bit of this or get a microphone on that. And so I understand the basis of your question. So don't get me wrong. I do understand that and I do respect it. It is the case that this is one of the only major research university offering online courses for which the faculty that we have teaching on campus are the faculty that are designing and putting forth these courses also. So that's a unique thing on our part, which means that we're not in this business for some other set of objectives, financial objectives outside of this need for balancing the rest of the university's budget. So Nancy, did you want to comment anything?
Yeah, I will say, we do have outstanding online programs and they're producing out. Does that mean every single course is as stellar as it could be? Probably not. And we're always looking to improve. One of the things that gives us a lot of advantages about online is that it is a scalable way to deliver. Because, students log on when they're able to, and they can take the course but hopefully we're designing it in a way that the same learning outcomes that you would get in an in-person version are possible to get in the online context. What that means is the courses need to be redesigned. We sort of can't assume that in exactly the same way. But we really need to think about what is the opportunity here for us to be innovative in the way we redesign courses. So we take advantage of the scalability while we also achieve those learning outcomes. And it's a constant process of innovation and continuous improvement. And, we have fantastic faculty all across all campuses that are engaged in how we do that.
Yeah, we'll get an answer to each of your points, but to the one point that you made on how much goes back to the department or the unit. And so we can share with you and share with the Senate total allocation of the dollars that we receive from the tuition revenues from online activities. So there is funding that goes to the unit for the conduct of the course. There's funding that goes to the college level unit. There's funding that comes to the university that then is reallocated by the provost. There's funding that supports the, as you said, the marketing activities. There's funding that supports the design activities and the support activities for the online stuff. But the amount of resources going to individual units, if you or most chairs, they're very happy with the kinds of resources that they're getting. Do you want to comment on that also, Nancy?
Oh, it's actually enabled colleges and units to be able to do things they wouldn't be able to do because they have access to these resources. And in addition to the things that you talked about, there's, marketing costs, it's a very competitive market out there. And to be able to have, our courses, seen in a positive light and marketed in a positive light, it is quite a substantial cost. In addition, we've got learning coaches and admission enrollment coaches. So the students aren't just taking the course, they're supported by a whole network of resources and hundreds of people staffed to be able to provide those. So there's a lot of costs that you don't actually see. It's not only about what's delivered, and designed by the faculty who are producing the courses.
And so it's also the case, this is a really important point. So if a unit says there isn't going to be more than 20 people in that course, and there's not more than 20 people in that course. If a unit says we're not going to do any online degrees, which some units have, then there aren't any online degrees from those units. And so if there are issues with specific courses or specific activities, then we should look at what those specific courses or activities are, because there's no mandate from us on anything about that.
I just want to point out that my unit is the most dependent on ASU online revenue of any unit in my knowledge of the whole college, the whole university, and my college is most dependent on ASU online revenue of any college in the university, to the best of my knowledge.
I don't know
Those are
that,
just
so,
things
but
I just
we'll
thought-
look at each of these points and
And may I ask?
President, Christopher Bang from School of Life Sciences. I teach biology, large classes. We are all thrilled to be back in the classroom. Great enthusiasm in the lecture hall. But during the pandemic, you invested a lot of money into technology to do ASU Sync and remote teaching and all that. And now we seem to get signal that we want to go back to where the pandemic. I'm just asking if, how do you see the use of that investment going forward? Because we get the signal that if I get sick, for example, COVID or something, I could still teach from home. But instead, I'm encouraged to find a substitute, which in my opinion would kind of disrupt the continuation for the students. Do you see any?
yeah, so a very good question. So we did make this investment in 1,100 spaces to teach by Zoom and enhanced Zoom technologies, and the system is not meant to be all one answer, all one thing. Our hope is that as we evolve, and I'm going to come to what the issue is. Our hope is that as we evolve, we'll have new types of students being able to come to the university in synchronous interaction. So ASU Sync versus asynchronous, which is ASU Online. Synchronous students would come into this room and they'd sit with us and they'd be on the screen and they'd hear everything and see everything and be a part of what we're learning. So we're looking forward to that. What has led to some of the mental level or level issues has been faculty members on their own saying, I don't really want to come to class. We're going to go by sync and I'm going to make that decision on my own. Well, we can't have that. That's different than you being sick or not being able to come in or something like that. We can't have the parents of these students, the families of these students, the accrediting authorities that are associated with us and so forth. They just say, well, are you meeting or are you not meeting? And so it doesn't mean that we can't be creative. We can't have new ways of teaching. We can't use these classrooms in new ways. We can't have degree programs that are ASU sync. We can't have hybrid classes. It doesn't mean any of that. But if a class has been advertised as a face-to-face full immersion class, then we need to make every reasonable effort to make certain that it is so. And we have had in the past faculty members say, well, nobody wants to come to class. I'm like, well, of course, nobody wants to come to class. I mean, who wouldn't want to just just sit at home and zoom in? I mean, certainly when I was in college, that would have been a lot of fun because then I could have taken more classes. And so if you wanted to move into some new directions, then you should be talking with your director, with Ken Rowe, your dean, with the provost office or others. I think Janet is your interim school director. Oh, we have a new director. Dr. Manley yes, she's just come in for your new director. So you can be creative, you can do all these things, but we just have to deliver what we advertised.
Right. I'm just thinking practically.
Well, practically, if you're ill, then, you should say, I'm going to Zoom into class because I'm ill, but there's a procedure for that or whatever. And so that's understandable. So, yeah, right.
President Crow, my name is Gilberto Lopez. I'm in the newish faculty member here at the School of Transborder Studies. My question is with regards, I walked in a little late, you're talking about the microchip and the blue chip technology initiative that we have at ASU. I see this as an amazing, like ASU is this rocket ship that's about to launch and these amazing things are happening. My concern is how do we ensure equitable access for Arizona youth to come here and be part of this spaceship that's about to lift off? One example is, we ran the summer program, the MSSA summer program at the School of Transborder Studies to bring in the children of immigrant farm workers or just farm workers who migrate throughout the country. These are little geniuses. They belong here. They should be part of this. They're excited about STEM. Unfortunately, because of whatever structural inequities that exist in education, they might not have the GPAs or these numbers, these metrics that we need for them to come here, yet they belong here. They're geniuses. And I'm positive that they're going to do things here at ASU. How do we ensure kids like them, the rural poor, urban poor, children of immigrants, or any children of other disenfranchised communities come and be part of this rocket ship that you're launching? That's my question.
That's an outstanding question. And so number one, we have digital assets available to those families and ways to help them to get those digital assets also that can help them. We have a Pathways program now that we now have 3,000 undergraduates attending ASU physically who have earned their way in. Some are online, 3,000 who have earned their way in, who weren't able to finish high school, weren't able to go to a college preparatory course offering high school. So a lot of high schools in rural areas or rural communities don't have the right courses to be ready to come to the university. So we've got 3,000 admitted and at the university. They're outperforming in general, the general student body with very high GPAs. So like you say, they have the energy, the grit, the drive, and so forth. So I'm going to ask that we find a way to connect you with Maria Anguiano, who is in charge of ASU Learning Enterprise, maybe Provost Gonzalez and her team, and Executive Vice President Anguiano and her team can work on some of these kids that you're talking about specifically. We're trying to reach out to them. We're also offering an ASU local campus in Yuma. And that's a campus where kids can start attending the university in a digitally enhanced environment with learning assets physically with them. So we've got a lot of things that we've got going on in these spaces. It's just how do we get the word out to these communities? How do we find the genius, who's, dragging along with their family, who are working as workers? We help them to move forward. And we have the tools, we have the assets. We also have tools and assets for the families themselves. So we have learning curricula. We have multilingual learning assets. We have a number of things available. The key, of course, as you might also say, is, well, they don't have access to, digital tools and so forth and so on. Well, we're trying to work on that also. We also have learning assets through different aspects of the university. There's a project called Solar Spell out of the School for the Future of Innovation Society, which has a solar-powered, Wi-Fi generated really empowered elementary school curriculum for students to be able to enhance their learning outcomes. So we have those kinds of tools also available. So we just need to get people connected. So I appreciate that question.
Any questions? Are there any questions from downtown? Okay.
No, they can hear you. They're-
Yeah. All right, Maureen. I
she's-
think-
she's-
questions from downtown.
Thank
question.
you. Now we're going to go to Polytechnic. Are there any questions from Polytechnic?
Scotty, questions from,
I couldn't hear you. We actually do have a couple questions here from the public campus.
sorry, repeat that. Did you have a question or no?
We do have a couple questions here at the Polytechnic campus.
Thank you.
First question.
All right, hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm Taylor Weiss, President-elect of Polytechnic Campus. Again, I think I just heard, right, we should deliver what we say we were delivering, especially with respect to in-person versus online. And there seems to have been a great deal of confusion over things like I-courses, because we now have students who have enrolled in in-person degree programs who have never set foot on an ASU campus, let alone the state of Arizona. They live in states like Hawaii and South Carolina and Florida, and yet they are set to graduate with in-person ASU degrees. And furthermore, we have students which are enrolled in courses like lab integrated lecture, which are hands-on instructional offerings. Question, how are faculty supposed to offer in-person hands-on learning opportunities to students who are online, asynchronous, and in another state? Are we fulfilling what we're offering?
Yeah, your question is blending three pieces of fruit into a single sort of blended thing when they're three different things. And so each department or school makes its own choices as to what I-courses they're going to offer. An I-course is an online delivered course for an on-campus student, and no department is offering all of its courses in that modality. And so that's not the way that goes. Now, there may be some students that are gaming the system or affecting the system or moving around in certain different kinds of ways. There are online asynchronous degree programs which require you to come to campus. So for instance, the biochemistry degree program requires you to take your chemistry labs physically here in the summer. So there's those accommodations wherever that again is driven by the faculty. Those things that can't be done digitally, physically, then they have to come together for that. And then to the notion of asynchronous online students, that's the design of our online activities, is students not being here physically with us because they can't be. They're already off on their life. They're generally 10 years older. So we have two basic types of students and then many types of learners. So we have online, on-campus full immersion students, some of whom can take I-courses. We have digital immersion, online technology enhanced are asynchronous or online students. We have a firewall between those two categories of students. You can't be both. You have to be one or the other. You can't move back and forth except by a internal transfer agreement within your unit, just to avoid some of the confusion that you're alluding to. And then we have some students who are coming in on synchronous ASU sync. Nancy, what's our estimate of the number of students that are doing that?
Have about 5,000 to 6,000 who are taking.
Thousands of students, and those are students who are coming into a room like the rooms that we're in, where I can see you and you can see me, and then we're learning together in that space. And then we also have hundreds of thousands of people who are not degree-seeking students, but who are learners taking some sort of learning tidbit from some aspect of ASU. Hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of people are organized into those activities. Those learners can then apply to become students. They can earn their way into the university by taking some of our universal learner courses. They can do well on their way in. So we probably should find ways to communicate where we can be clearer. Now, it's also the case, just to be clear, just because a student says to you that they're doing something doesn't mean that that's what they're actually doing. So we have from time to time, occasionally, maybe not at the Polytechnic campus, but at other campuses, We found students that think they're doing one thing when they're actually doing another, or say they're doing one thing when they're actually doing another. Not to be malicious, but just because they're perhaps less precise than we would like them to be. And so we did have a student once who that she didn't graduate, and of course she hadn't been enrolled for 3 years, but he'd been paying for her tuition to her directly. So we have all kinds of things that are going on all the time. And so if you have a more specific question, we can get to that. Or if there's a specific confusion, we can get to that. And if you know of students that are gaming the system by taking only I courses, I don't know how they can get through to graduation.
In fact, it's supposed to be the case that all degrees can only have a certain proportion of courses that are I courses.
Right.
And so the degree should be designed in that way. Now, that's not to say that people make their own decision and move to an I course modality. And we haven't strictly been policing that, but it should not be possible for you to do your entire degree from another state.
Well, or there may
if
be
you're-
students who are only taking I courses because they have no intent upon graduating. They haven't decided what they're doing yet, and they're gaming the system. So we do have very, very efficient and very skilled gamers who game the system in some different ways. And maybe we should reach in, figure out who those kids are, and find ways to help them. But
Is there a second question from Polly?
So yes, one other question. Scotty Craig, the faculty president for Polytechnic Campus. You started out, President Go, talking about a lot of really exciting new initiatives from different laws that have recently passed and opportunities that potentially coming towards ASU. One specifically that you talked about that's been ongoing for a couple of years now is the New Economy Initiative. And this is a very exciting initiative that we've been using it to kind of roll out several new centers. And I know we have some more centers that are kind of upcoming and starting up this year. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about these centers and your vision for these centers going forward. And also touch on a little bit on efforts on really increasing and addressing the whole academic diversity that we have here at ASU and getting them connected within these centers.
right, so the centers have been identified as areas where the future economy knowledge systems can be stimulated or catalyzed. So we're looking at a new economy, science and technology center in the future of sustainability-based things, new water systems, new energy systems, new food systems, new ways of thinking, new decision tools. We're looking at another one in learning systems, learning design, learning engineering. We're looking at one in advanced energy systems. We're looking at one in advanced manufacturing systems. And so all in areas where we think that academic work concentrated in those fields would accelerate industrial evolution, if you will. All of them will have industrial partners. These are very similar to the engineering research centers funded by the National Science Foundation. And so the selection of the topics has been derivative of a number of historical surveys that have been done about what future industries could do the best here in metropolitan Phoenix. So things related to sustainability, things related to advanced manufacturing, things related to advanced energy systems, things related to hostile environments, things related to advanced learning. Those are the areas that we're focusing on. And then to the second part of your question about diversity and so forth, the diversity goals of the institution are ubiquitous. I mean, they're through the faculty, through the students, through the topics, through the subjects, they're through everything. And we don't have even outcomes of our goal attainment. Few people do even in their own individual life. I'd like to, do certain things in my life that I can't achieve or can't do, but I'm still trying. But we have no differentiation in any of the new economy initiatives. There is a large concentration in engineering for these things, and engineering is not our most diverse body of faculty members. It is a very diverse or increasingly diverse body of students at the moment. And so we're working on that. So I don't know if that addresses most of what you asked, but that's where we are on that.
And now we have time for, is there anybody, any questions from West Campus? Brief questions?
Give me the book.
I have just a question. Dr. always been very sense the student population that come from other countries. And in 2016, when politics was playing a partisan role with the DACA students, you said if DACA is eliminated, ASU will find a way for in-state tuition. So my comment is today you must be really happy that Biden did issue a ruling to preserve the protections for the 600 we have in the United States. So I thank you for always supporting people who seek a better life in the United States. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. We are very supportive. We have had DACA students from more than 30 countries. These are students legally present in the United States, brought here by their parents while minors who have graduated, in our case, from Arizona high schools. And we've done everything that we can to be helpful to them. We've had DACA students from North Korea, DACA students from Taiwan, DACA students from everywhere. And these are very, very unjust policies. And we've worked very much to be able to find homes for those students here at the United States, including raising lots of philanthropy, help pay for their tuition to be able to attend the university, regardless of its in-state or out-of-state policy relative to the amount.
My gratitude for
Okay.
that. Thank you.
Downtown.
Downtown.
Yeah, no question. All right. Thank-
Thank
All
you
right.
so much. And now I'd like to ask if Provost Gonzalez would like to say a few words here. This is yours.
So when you follow Michael Crow, you sort of just have to hang back and see what is he going to say, and then what's left for me to address. He did cover a lot of what I wanted to highlight about, where we are 2022. We're in many ways, we're in great shape. But let me just maybe reflected in his statements and in Senate President Dolan's statements, and I see Judy Karshmer here, who maybe is also speaking today. And so also part of the theme, which is the theme is community. Our charter says that we protect the health, welfare of the communities that we serve. Well, ASU is a community. And I think this year, I really appreciate that Senator Dolan has chosen community as a theme for your work. Starting there, I do want to start and just say thank you all, because you're playing a vital role in your community as senators. I look forward to working with you this year. I thank you for playing a role in faculty governance, for bringing forward faculty issues, and doing so in a way where we can really genuinely work toward positive outcomes together. As provost, promoting faculty is a core part of my responsibility in the provost office. So our goals are aligned, and I really look forward to working with you in ways. Other issues around community. It is the case that we need to bring our communities back. And we need to, the engagement on campus in person, where faculty have the opportunity to collaborate together on their research, where we're connecting with students, all those students who did come here. It's very, very important for us. And so we are in a delicate balance of trying to figure out, to what extent is sync used now in a purposeful way rather than as an easy, convenient thing to do. And how do we make sure faculty are really committed to coming back and creating that important community that serves us all so well. And the other thing that I just want to follow up on is that are the students. So we talked about the 16,000 new students, the 140,000 students here this fall. Penny talked about the fact that so many students don't graduate. Well, we do want to be looking out for our students in ways, and we're asking you to help us in a specific way that I'll just say a little bit about. you know, we know that the instructors on campus, that means all classes of faculty who teach in the classrooms and online, play a very important role for our students and play a very, very important role. What you do in the classroom is the most important part of student success, students' engagement, sense of belonging, whether they complete their degree, whether they persist. And we also know that particularly for those new students to our campuses and degree, that this first semester is vitally important for them. So what we're going to ask you to do, and you've been doing this, but we want a renewed focus on it, is use the academic status reports as a channel to communicate directly with your students and with other people in our ecosystem when we know that a student is having difficulty. Academic status reports are used somewhat, but not to the degree that they could, because they can be a powerful tool for us. So this, we're asking those faculty, especially in lower division courses, to submit academic status reports for all of their students in their courses as early as possible. We have incredible tools that we've been developing, actionable analytics tools that allow us to see how a student is doing in our environment. We can see whether they're logging on to their courses. We can see how much they're participating, but the more rich information we can add to the equation will enable us to identify those students that need us to reach out to them. And the most vital information is going to come from the instructors from the classroom who've noticed whether somebody's showing up, who've noticed whether assignments are being turned in or not, or other things. And so we're just asking you to please use this mechanism so that we can reach out to those students and serve them well this semester. There's concerns about, President Crow talked about these students have been in kind of the pandemic modality and COVID modality for 2 years. Some people talk about learning loss. We're all concerned about mental health challenges, social anxieties, et cetera. So we feel like this is a group that we really need to capture early. And so we're asking all of you to do that. In order to support you to do that, we've put up some resources onto the Provost website that helps you understand how to do academic status reports, how to use them effectively to talk to your students about those reports. You can find them on the provost.asu.edu website. If you go to the academic tab under the fall 2022 learning expectations, you'll see that information. And so as senators, if you could help us get the word out so that we're using this mechanism, we want to see what kind of impact we can have for our students at this critical time in their journey with us. Ann Jones, the Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education, is also meeting with all the Associate Deans of Undergraduate Education and all of the colleges to kind of gear up for us to do this big campaign together. So just want to highlight that, another way that we're really trying to focus on the health and well-being of our students. But we also want to focus on the health and well-being of our faculty. And so we talk about the numbers of students coming to campus, and in the fall, 140,000 or 80,000, but 140,000 enrolled in all modalities in the fall alone, 170,000 across the whole year. So we pulled the numbers of faculty. We have 170 new tenure track faculty and 350 career track faculty joining us just this year. And those people need a home and a community. They're coming here to engage as well. So we just ask you to look for ways to reach out to them as well. And I'm going to leave it at that because a lot of other questions were already asked, but I just wanted to highlight those few things, and I'll see you in future Senate meetings.
Thank you so much. That's a perfect segue to our first speaker. No, we're not. We're running out of time. And it's my pleasure. Yes, thank you, Provost Gonzalez. You'll be with your meetings as well. And like I said, a perfect segue. I would like to ask Judith Karshmer, who's our ASU Chief Wellness Officer, come on up, who is going to talk about ways from a faculty standpoint to integrate wellness into the fabric of what they do, or what you do at ASU.
Thank you so much for, first of all, inviting me. And thank you for all of you to serve as senators, an important part of the academic life of the university. So Judy Karshmer here. I have the good fortune of being Dean of Edson College of Nursing and Health Innovation, and also was appointed in the last several months as the Chief Wellness Officer for ASU. And I want to just sort of spend a little bit, I know you got lots of stuff to do, but a little bit of time giving an overview of what that's about and why it's so important as a follow-on on community building. Because if we know anything, we have found that in order to have well-being, you need community, and community promote well-being. So let me just make the first premise. And that's that as I've been investigating and looking into this role at ASU, the first thing is that we have so many programs. The number of programs at ASU for wellness, for sport, for nutrition is unbelievable. We have online programs, we have programs for students who live off campus, on campus, but what we don't have is the value of wellness. If you really want to make a difference in the life of a community, then it's not about a program, it's about the value. And let me explain what I mean by that. Everybody has wellness practices. It may be on sunscreen, it may be they only drink light beer, it may be that they walk 2 extra blocks, but it's not about being in a program. It's not about listening to somebody else's expectation of what you should do. It's starting with you, helping the individual identify what are his or her wellness practices, where they learned them, and are they doing what they want. Only when we start there celebrating what people are doing already can we move forward in making a value of wellness. When I say that, it's really by saying we are steeped in this idea that it's important, we have important values that we try to live by at a university. And one of them, if we have learned anything over the last 2 years of COVID, it's that our wellness, our health, and our well-being is important. I'm spending time just talking about faculty right now, but this is the entire community. You don't have a diversity, equity, inclusion for one group. We know that diversity, equity, inclusion programs does not solve the problem. Well, the same is true with the wellness work that we are doing. That's that we're going to try to infuse it across the ASU community to build community and to make that community healthy. I think that I know what it's like to, it's been a tough couple of years. You know, as you know, as I said, I'm a nurse. You know, we've had a lot of our part-time FAs who are full-time nurses who have been teaching our students, who've had to take care of their families. Talk about burnout. Talk about people that have been stressed out. And the lessons learned from that is that we need to take care of each other. And the first thing to do that is notice it. And you have to feel comfortable enough to name it. So one of the things that we will be doing, we have a whole host of things, but one of the things we're going to be following on the work that was done around the community of care. We're developing several short videos for faculty and staff to feel comfortable. I call it the safe baby drop-off, that you would feel comfortable having those conversations with one another and with students. And that if you don't, that's not for you to do, but it would give you the wherewithal to feel comfortable. What we also find is much of the wellness work is outside of the academic enterprise. That's EOS does that. That's student affairs. It's not part of the academic enterprise. But if just like with equity, diversity, and inclusion, we want to make it real, we have to bring it into the academic life. So what we're going to be doing, and just one other really, I think, terrific indicator of how important this is, the ACE, the Advanced Fellows for the last year, it's a 5-year grant at the university, really focusing on women, under minorities, what will make them successful in an academic role. What did they choose for their year-long work? Wellness. And out of that work, we have a lot of great ideas about what works, what doesn't work, best practices that we're going to be pulling together as we move this forward. So we have 4 broad goals. One broad goal is the wellness and health of the community. That's all of us in the community. And to that end, we're going to be developing everything from that every ASU has some burst of wellness. Could be a football game. Instead of show us your tank top. It might be show us something about wellness. Everything to student clubs having an opportunity for a wellness conversation. That wellness becomes part of the dean's hello to students. That we do consciousness raising that says we have to look out for ourselves and for one another. So we're really going to be trying to look at these wellness bursts. Another one we intend to open is for wellness. So you could actually say wellness near me and find out there's puppies in the park right now, or there's a yoga class going on. Something you don't have to sign up for, but you can participate when you're ready, not when somebody else is ready. I have a student, a PhD student from Mary Lou Fulton, who's got a small grant. She's working with some students on wellness drop-in centers. I'm not even sure what that's going to look like, but we have students doing this. And everything that we're talking about is predicated on the idea that students are going to be part of the workforce. They're going to help us develop these videos. They're going to help us do these wellness bursts. I had a faculty member hear me talk about this, and she said it was a Zoom, and you know how much people are always doing other things during Zoom, but the very rich chat. She chatted to me and said, "I want to be part of happiness bursts." So in her mind, the wellness became a happiness. That's an important, very important consideration. So we have these four broad categories. One, infusing wellness into the community so the community can help us be well. And then the other is to make the other three are making sure that we look at wellness in the academic enterprise, wellness in the knowledge enterprise. There's lots of interesting studies done about how wellness programs can do several things. They can cut down absenteeism, cut down on use of insurance for students, fewer visits to student health, all sorts of positive outcomes, or you could measure biometric outcomes, blood pressure, age, those kinds of things. Or you can talk about satisfaction. But what really you have to talk about is what do you define it as? Not somebody else, but what do we make it? So we'll be looking at that from the knowledge enterprise lens, and then the learning enterprise. We're part of the community, and so much of what we do is bringing the community in and sending our students out. We prepare nurses, community health folks, all sorts of different kinds of providers in our college. How can we help pivot some of those experiences to the community? It's a large agenda. So far, it's been sort of trying to get my head around how to make this, how to get an idea of this. But at the end of the day, it's about moving forward with this as a value. We are assembling a large pan-university advisory board. I've asked all the deans to recommend folks from their worlds. If you're interested in this, tell your dean so we can get this. And then we'll have 3 task forces around each of those learning enterprises, knowledge enterprise and academic enterprise. I was just able to hire a program director, a project manager who's starting in 2 weeks. So it'll be somebody more than just me. And I would love to be able to have share with you in another quarter our broad goals for the year and how our metrics for how we're going to move that forward. Happy to answer any questions, but I know you got a lot of stuff. So. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Our next guest is Aaron Trujillo, who is, yes, thank you so much. Thank you. And we will have a chance for questions in a moment. Aaron, come on over. Trujillo, and she's Director of Counseling Services and is going to talk a little bit more about the student side.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say I'm so happy to be in front of all of you. I've just thought through, in a couple minutes, what would be something that I can offer that hopefully enhances the way you're thinking for students, as well as perhaps offering some ways that we can partner in the future. I'm also a product of ASU. I have 2 master's degrees here from counseling and from the MBA. So I also want to thank you for all the efforts that you put into students here. One, I actually want to echo what the provost shared. I think that you are absolutely the most important role in students, and I meet with students individually all the time. Last week, I was meeting with a student who is a junior and was processing a lot of different mental health needs And then I asked them, well, why are you here? Like, what are you studying? Tell me a little bit about your academic pursuits. And that more times than not, I have to tell you, is always a protective factor. You know, there's a reason why they're putting thousands of dollars and weeks of hours of every week into being here. And it's because they have a real sense of the bigger order of what they're trying to do. And so even if they're not sharing with you all of those individual particular things that are from a mental health perspective, if they're sharing with you their curiosity, their rigor, their questioning of what they're studying, and you are responding to that in an honest and genuine way, you are infusing a protective factor for them. So the more times you're able to really kind of bring the why to why it is that you're studying what you're studying, why it is that this is really important, you are embedding some protective factors for students, especially if we think through students that are a little bit more perhaps developmentally younger. You know, the COVID years have at times means that we're meeting some students that are a little bit younger than maybe they were 5 or 6 years ago developmentally. Getting through hard things requires meaning and requires a purpose for that. So just make sure that your staff and your fellow faculty know that that's a really big part of how students I see are getting through difficult and complicated periods of their life. 2, I want to encourage an invitation to explore how it is that we support the normative emotional development that is particular to your career. And that invite is like between now and like 2030. It's gonna be so long to kind of really think this through, but I do have an example that I want to use as a platform. I see the music, dance, and theater here, Dr. Berkseller, and we've been working with Kristen Hunt. She's a professor in your program. A couple years ago, Kristen Hunt and I were both on a master's thesis for a theater master's program, and the student their thesis was looking at a trauma-informed way of how to shape the theater space and how you lead a theater production. And the students, more times than not, have these really interesting ways that we have to kind of catch up to about how it is that we lean into work as the normal arc of growth for this particular career. So in the area of theater, after that, Kristen has invited us to meet with the varied theater productions. They are doing productions on really heavy, complicated topics. There are people acting through things that are just really a lot. They're not easy topics. And eventually Kristen decided, well, as opposed to inviting counseling in all the time, how do I actually generate part of the structure of building a theater program where we can normatively talk about that? And how can everyone in this theater program know how to put that in part of their program? So we're co-creating a somewhat of a train the trainer model set specific to the arc of what the theater students are going to need as they are naturally learning that. Now, that is one example. I'll tell you, I've talked to Cronkite. You know, there are students who, if you think of anything that you've watched on TV, there's someone who is in slow motion, like making that video. And there are students who are learning how to do those digital edits, but they're watching incredibly stressful things. How is it that we have conversations about the normalization of that being hard? I know the School of Nursing, we've talked, there's students who went through their internship and they're on COVID units. How are we actually talking about the muscle that it takes? In the School of Sustainability, we've talked about eco-anxiety as a somewhat normal and rational response to learning these complicated things about the world. So my invitation to you is to think through what is the norm of emotional development that is occurring in your field, and how can we kind of appropriately support some of the ushering. I'm not talking about like group therapy circles. I'm talking about like the specifics that you're teaching. A lot of professors, when they think about this, they're like, oh, well, this is what happened when I learned. I just had to learn. I think we need a better way. And so if there's a way that I can help and get creative with you, like I said, I'll be here the rest of the decade. So make sure that please reach out to me. And then last, I just want to give you a couple pieces. One of this many of you, I want you to know a little bit that's really exciting to me about our open call, open chat format in counseling. It's a 24/7 ability for students to reach out anywhere in the world. We had 1,500 users our first year, which is last year. 54% of those only used that. They didn't use counseling. So this is reaching a different group of students that may have a different level of bar to reach out for just even a simple conversation. The age range was 16 to 60. 49% of them used the chat feature. So there's a chat or a phone feature, and over half are using this chat feature. 65% use this service between 4 p.m. and 8 a.m. the next day or on the weekend. So again, this is like completely new usage. It is branching in addition to the work that we're doing, but it's also catching students in interesting ways. And then strangely, Wednesday is the highest day of usage, and that doesn't track any of my data. So if you have probably because of this, I'd welcome hearing that. We're looking at the data. We do believe that the arc of supports needs to be wide, and Open Call, Open Chat is in addition to that. So if there's easy ways that you can remind students that's there, remind them to download it on their phone. There's tons of students that are like, a friend told me about this and I just called. It does very basic things. It also does really complicated interventions and is always connected to us. I thank you for your time. Please reach out to me. Thank you for the extra time. And I'm looking forward to working with you.
Are we going to have questions, Penny?
Does anyone have any questions that they would? Yes. Does anyone have any questions for our guests?
Tempe
Thank you.
senators, if you have a question, please come to the microphone.
No questions? All right. So now we have a
So
special order of business.
Let's
which is-
actually go through each campus just to make sure. Downtown, do you have any questions?
Oh, yeah, guys. Okay, downtown, do you have any questions for our guests?
No questions from downtown.
All right, so now we're going to go to Polytechnic. Any questions from Polytechnic?
There are no questions from the Polytechnic campus.
All right, and last but not least, we're going to go to West. Are there any questions from West?
Just from West, thank you.
Nope. All right. Thank you so much. Like I said, I'll get this down. Don't worry. Okay, so now Jeffrey Kingsbury, where are you? What campus? Is
I'm here.
Jeffrey? Okay, Jeffrey Kingsbury is going to, he is the chair of the Committee on Committees, and he has something he needs to get approved. So go ahead, Jeffrey, it's yours.
Thank you, Penny. Hi, I'm Jeff Kingsbury. I'm the chair, as Penny noted, of the Committee on Committees. The Committee on Committees is charged with staffing the standing committees of the Senate. And this we had far more senators that needed or were available for committee appointments or nominations than we had vacancies available. And so in considering that calculus of how to equitably resolve that, we looked at, of course, and prioritized the results of the survey that you all participated in, indicating your preferences. We also looked at the needs of the various committees to be balanced in terms of campuses be represented, diversity of colleges and disciplines and so on. And so we came up with the list of nominations that you'll find in Appendix B of the agenda for this meeting. I know some of you had questions about that you didn't appear on that list. As I said, we had more senators that did not have a committee assignment than we had vacancies available. We tried to resolve that as equitably as possible. If you did not get appointed to a committee, don't care, or maybe as the case may be, rejoice too much. There will be working groups, ad hoc committees, and of course, there still needs to be staffing done for the provost committees, which are not appointed by the Senate committees. And so I would like to make a motion that we move to vote on the slate of nominations listed in Appendix B of the agenda for this meeting.
Do we get a second? You don't need a second. Motion has been made to approve the slate of members for standing service on the Senate committees for the year 2022-23. And it doesn't require a second. So please take a moment to vote.
Using your iClicker app, go ahead and cast your vote. Do you approve motion 2023-09 Senate Standing Committee slate? It is in Appendix B, A for yes, B for no, C to abstain. We're ending the poll.
Oh, I'm gonna say pass.
The motion passes with 92 votes, 95%.
Okay, this motion approving the slate of members for Senate standing committees for academic year 2022-23 has passed. We have no unfinished business, so we can begin new business with our first reads from CAPSI to prepare you for motions we will be acting on in our September meeting. Okay. As a reminder, these items are for informational purposes only and allow senators to review them and come prepared to our next meeting for full discussion if necessary. At this point, senators may seek clarification, but full discussion on these motions is reserved for our next meeting. The new CAPSI chair the new CAPSI chair is not able to present today, but our former CAPSI chair is going to present the motions.
Yes, I am back. It's forever. I am from CAPSI, and for those of you, CAPSI stands for Curriculum and Academic Program Committee. It's made up of representatives, faculty-only representatives from all units on all campuses, and we meet the first Thursday following this Senate meeting to discuss requests that come to us. This Thursday, September 1st, CAPSI will meet to review and discuss 9 information items. These are items in Appendix, Appendix A. Information items will not return back to you. Information items simply go to CAPSI. We make decisions and then they go somewhere. Who knows where they go, but they go somewhere. I am not going to read those 9 first reads because they are there in the appendix and you can read them and we'll save time. All right. Some things I have to read, but those I don't. Also, CAPSI is reviewing 7 requests that will return to the Senate. These, there are 3 motions from Watts College of Public Service and Community Solutions. One is a request from for 2 establishments of a graduate degree, an MA in policy and an MPS in community development practice. In addition, there's a request for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, law enforcement in parks and protected areas. We also have a request from the College of Integrative Sciences and Arts for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, AA in organizational leadership, a request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Department of English for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BA in Culture, Technology, Environment, a request from Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering, Computer Science and Engineering Program for the establishment of a graduate degree, MS in Data Science and Engineering, and a request from Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, Division of Educational Leadership and Innovation for the renaming of a graduate certificate from an overview of autism spectrum disorders to autism spectrum disorders.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. If you have any questions regarding these upcoming proposals, please contact Denise, Claudia Sadowski Smith, or me. CAPSI meeting on Thursday, September 1st. Okay. We have no other first reads, but we do have several We do have several second reads, right, and action items today. Beginning with new course proposals that were distributed via email on August 16th. These proposals will be handled in gross. Does anyone wish to remove any of the other new course proposals from the list? You all had received these. Okay, if not, we will vote on these courses. Do you approve of SM 2023-01 new course proposals in gross?
Couple more seconds. Okay. Ending the poll. The motion passes with 97 votes, which is 97%.
Okay, so motion 2023-01 new course proposals has passed. Okay. Last April, CAPC reviewed two motions related to curriculum and program changes. These motions are brought to you for consideration. Denise?
The first motion, motion 2022-59, was a request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences School of Social Transformation for the establishment of a graduate certificate, American Studies. The second motion, 2022-60, request from the Herberger Institute for Design and Arts, School of Arts, Media and Engineering for the name change of a graduate degree from MS in Digital Culture to MS in Media Arts and Sciences.
Okay. Is there a request to discuss either of these motions? Any of the campuses? Okay. All right, then hearing none, we will now vote on these motions in gross.
Okay, everyone. So let me launch it first. Here we go. CAPC motion. Do you approve of the CAPC motion in gross as read on 8/29/2022? A for yes, B for no, C to abstain. Okay, we got there real fast, so we're ending the poll. And this motion passes with 100 votes, 97%.
All right, so the CAPC motion has been approved. Okay, well, we have no further motions or resolutions, so our new business is concluded. At this point in the agenda, we typically have Senate committee reports, but we don't have any yet. Most committees have not yet met. So going forward, we will have reports from them, but not today. So we have no open forum for the reports. We now have an open forum in general. And again, in the interest of time, we are going to go around to the campuses to see if there are any questions for open forum. And we'll start with downtown campus. Are there any general questions? Any concerns? Oh, somebody's coming up.
I just had a question about the nominations process. Our college has had a long-standing lack of representation.
I'm sorry, it's a little hard to understand.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, a little better.
So our college has had a long-standing lack of representation on personnel that trying to get onto it. How would we go about sort of petitioning to have our nominee considered? It's been, I think, 5 years we've tried this.
I'm sorry, I did not get that. What are
Can you
you
hear
trying?
everybody? Hello,
Yes.
hello? Yes.
We can-
So he was asking how to get representation from his college. They've been petitioning for the past 5 years to try to get representation on the personnel committee and haven't been successful yet. So is there another way? Jeff, we can talk about
So trying to get on the personnel committee.
Correct.
Okay, why doesn't that person,
So I've noted it. Who's the senator that brought this up?
reach out to them?
Alex Young from Barrett.
Thank you. I have made a note. We will follow up with
Right,
him.
we'll follow up with you for
Yeah.
sure on that. Okay. All right, Polytechnic Campus, do you have a question?
No questions here.
No, all set. Tempe, we have some, hi, David, please introduce yourself.
I'm Dave Wells, and just so the Senate knows, in the College of Integrative Sciences and Arts, we've had a lot of challenges. Our new dean. One of the things that I want to get the Senate to follow up on is email protocol. And I'm not going to read the whole email, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to give this to you at the end, but I'm going to read what happened. We had 5 members of my faculty of about 40 who were not returned. And I've been here just my 25th year, and it's the first time that's ever happened. But one of them wrote to everybody in the college about concerns that he had, but this is what happened to his email. I'm hoping some of you saw my email this morning of August 8th, 2022. Since sending, my ASU accounts have all been disabled, and that email has been deleted from the ASU server. Now, what that means, just so you know, is it was in my inbox, and when it's deleted from the server, it's no longer in my inbox. I can't read it. Of course, he found another way to send it. In addition, they have restricted my personal email from sending to ASU email addresses. So I have created a new Google account, and I'm including the original email below for distribution. Now, he has a number of concerns, including saying that he thinks the dean should be removed immediately. But we're in a university, and a university is supposed to be a place to dialogue. Now, due to what's happened in my college, I've joined a union, and the union needs to be able to communicate with folks. And I'm really concerned that our attempts to communicate is going to lead to our ASU accounts being shut down and all kinds of stuff like that. So I'd like to know what happened, why this happened, and whether or not rules were broken or what the rules really are, so that as we try to communicate with our colleagues in my college, we don't have a repeat of this incident. Thank you.
I can definitely tell you that I have not heard of anybody's email being sabotaged or shut down or whatever, but let's follow up. Email me, I am still getting emails. But I would like to follow up on this because that's really the first I have heard of a situation like this. So thank you for bringing it to our attention.
I am Rocco Sperner. I'm from the School of Mathematical and Statistical Sciences. We're rather concerned about the so-called Cleveland decision that may stop us from requiring room scans in online proctoring. Maybe you've heard of it.
I'm sorry, what
The
kind?
Cleveland decision that may stop from requiring room scans in online proctoring.
Oh,
Room
choir.
scans. As in,
Oh, yes.
sorry, I have to kind of bend down.
Raise it up.
Me-
Yes, I am actually, now that you're saying, so you're concerned about the ruling that requires the room scans
No,
or is
it
preventing?
it might ban them. I mean, not technically binding for us yet in Arizona, but it might come to that. So my personal concern about this is honestly that the proctoring system we've been using for our online courses never that well, because the foundational flaw is there's one camera, and the one camera shows us the face of the student. It doesn't show us what the student is looking at. So whether it's RPNow or Honor, there's always this possibility that a helper can bring in, for example, a large, cardboard with hints to the test that a student can be looking at after the room scan happened. Or there could be a second monitor where, a helper works out the answers to the test and writes them on a piece of cardboard, quietly puts it up on the wall, and the room would never see this. So I think we have a much larger problem than one court decision about that, but we need to have a deeper discussion about how much academic integrity our Honor system is actually buying us.
So you're saying you don't feel the room scans can address that?
No, I think we would at the very least need 2 cameras, one that shows the student and one that shows what the student is looking at. But of course that may get us into even more conflict with the law or the courts. So
Yeah, because it just got knocked down. As
That's
a matter
right.
of fact, that they can't in the room.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty big discussion.
So, I mean, it's a discussion I would like us to have, because I feel like the proctoring system is just not working, court decision or not.
Can you email me, please? By the way, I have one of the simplest emails at ASU.
I
P-
assume your email hasn't been banned.
No, pd@asu.edu, and it's been 26 years, so I think I'm pretty set. Yes, and we will direct you to where that needs to go.
Thank you.
Microphone. Can you
Why don't
go to
because
the
it's hard-
microphone?
It's hard enough to.
Sorry. Thank you. I'm Bruno Walfort, also from mathematics. I wanted to add, my colleague, mentioned the fact that it was kind of a personal thing, but it's more than a personal thing because faculty in mathematics have already started basically asking students to purchase another camera to show and and so on. And I guess the consensus among those faculty is that we should have a kind of a policy at ASU to enforce this purchase of sorry of that second camera and because otherwise it's students are not going to volunteer them by themselves.
No, that's
And-
a good point.
and so it's a bigger problem. And I know it's a long discussion about the proctoring and as President Crow mentioned, that guaranteeing that the online education has the same value as
Totally
the
understand.
in-person education. So
And I also request that you get in touch with me so we can be sure to get you to the right committee and people that will be able to take this up, because that is a concern. I've been teaching online for years and there's creative ways sometimes, but when you're talking about something as discrete as mathematics and not uniquely project-based, it's
do have online students, yes.
Yes, you do. So please be in touch, and that is something we will definitely put on the radar to look
Will
at.
do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Penny, maybe it would be useful to reiterate how the RFP works. Let people,
Request for consultation.
RFC, sorry, I always say
Yes,
RFP,
yes.
RFC, yes.
Because you can put in an RFC, but I thought before we got to that point, maybe we would clarify it a bit, and then I can direct.
What I mean is maybe the orientation about how senators can raise an issue so
Yes.
that it can then be brought to committee.
There is a formal way to raise an issue, an RFC, request for consultation, that you can put forward to the Senate, and it goes to the appropriate place, and we have a formal process for doing that. But what I was going to say is, if you're not familiar with that, first, you can reach out to the Senate office and we will give you the information needed to do the RFC and point you in the right direction. But yes, I wasn't going to get granular today, but yes, contact the, sure you're aware of that process, both of you. Okay. Okay, last question. Yes.
Hi, Kristen Dubvig-Puelko from the Hugh Downs School of Human Communication. And I was hoping to ask Provost Gonzalez, but is there any movement on gender affirming healthcare that we know about?
That is actually, I don't know specific movement, but I have a meeting coming up, and that is on my list of questions.
Thank you.
So we are going to try to get an answer to that. Yes. And now we have, last but again, not least, have campus. Are there any questions? We do alphabetically.
Penny, I just have a comment. I always tell my students that we can be better humans. Today marks the International Day Against Nuclear Tests. It's the 13th year that the United Nations has started to observe this day to tell us about the devastating effect of nuclear weapons, not only on humans, plants, animals, and the environment. And also on another, we can also do better. Another incident is that on Saturday, the last remaining member of the indigenous tribe in Brazil has died after being 26 years living in confinement alone. And it was practically a genocide because the cattle ranchers there have pushed everyone away from their land. And so I think my message today is that yes, we have problems in academia, and yes, we have problems with things that we think are very important, but we live, unlike what the administration passed, not these 2 years, we tried to make us think that we live in a small world, we live in a global world. So even as a mathematician, I think it is imperative that we make our students aware of important events like this and make them become better citizens as they vote and as they go out to the world. So it's not a question, Penny, relax. It's just a comment about the international.
I'm not nervous.
International Day. No, you're doing a great job, because I think if we live in a world where humans have created so much agony and destruction, and I just wanted to mention these two events. Thank you for listening.
Yes. Thank you so much, Hala, and thank you for your heart and concern. It is definitely appreciated. Well, all business shown on the agenda has been completed. So our meeting is adjourned, and I've been instructed to whack the gavel. You are free to roam about the campus.